Hello and welcome. I'm Petra Mayer of Petra Mayer and Associates Consultant, and today I am super thrilled to have with me Sheryl Plouffe. Sheryl is a video coach. She's a virtual video producer and a former Canadian TV broadcaster. She has been seen by millions over the course of her 25-year career in news media. She has produced thousands of videos and has broadcast over 20,000 hours of live television. We've got a real pro here, and I am so thrilled for you to share some of your insights and resources with us here today, Sheryl. Welcome.
I am excited to be here, Petra. Thank you so much.
So Sheryl, we talked about this a little bit before. You're coming from broadcasting, so you've got a huge amount of experience and in the TV world. Now, how did this experience impact you in your business now?
Well, it's interesting because it's the same thing, only in a different environment and different industry. So in broadcasting, I was hired to be the brand ambassador of, that network. And so what I did as a TV broadcaster, as a TV personality, was communicate value to an audience in the form of content in order for us to build that audience, and then the network monetize that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do now in the entrepreneurial world is really the same thing. Only we're the network now. We're the mini media company. And so we are charged to create that content to put out there to attract the audience and monetize it in whatever way we see fit. So I do see that there's a parallel between both. And really what I've done is taken the best practices from that industry and brought it into this space.
And I think we're already right in the topic here on video. I mean, you're all about video. That's what you do. You help people to create video, understand what persona they want to represent on video. So why is this so important in business nowadays?
Well, it's important because of the world we live in. The world has changed. We live, especially and I know we're doing this at a time, in a moment in time where COVID is still very much a reality, but there may be people watching the replay right now, several years after COVID, but there's no doubt that COVID has changed things. And what we saw during the pandemic was that people were gravitating to video because they had to. It really served as a lifeline to not only our professional lives, but even our personal lives. So that's not going away. And video was a thing that we needed to really take seriously even before the pandemic. But what the pandemic did was really put a magnifying glass on that and say, it is no longer a choice now. Like, this is the world we live in. So for people who are still marketing, and listen, I am a big Prince fan. So, we don't want to be marketing like it's 1999. We want to be partying like it's 1999. But you have to market for the year that we live in. And we have to be adapting to the changes that have happened. We're in the digital era. So video is very much at the forefront of that. The other thing, Petra, is that video is the closest thing that we have to being there in person. So I love in-person meetings. I like in-person events, but this is the next best thing.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're already speaking about a bunch of different areas, how a business owner could be considering using video in their business. So maybe could you expand on that a little bit?
Well, in terms of the different ways in which they could utilize video. Yeah, actually, I made a few little notes here because there are so many different ways. It's interesting because I, at one point, brainstormed 30 different ways, but I won't bore you with all of the laundry list of ways. But here are some of the more pertinent ways in which business owners can utilize video. And that is the biggest one, I suppose we would say, is content marketing. Right? And it's that premise that I was just explaining about putting out content, attracting an audience. So content marketing, and that can be through the distribution channels of social media, but it could also be distribution channels that you have, say, through email, or maybe you choose to do your marketing through messenger bots. Maybe you choose to do your marketing in other ways, that advertising, so there are ways in which that content marketing piece could play into that. I think it also comes into play possibly even from an interpersonal communications perspective. So for example, one of the CEOs that I have worked with was struggling getting messages out to her team. Now she's running a team of 60 people, and she just wanted to have a better way to communicate with them. So interpersonal, communications or team communications is another way in which we could utilize video. Then there's social proof, right? So that could be through testimonials and gathering that in video format and packaging that up. We have authority building videos, we have lead generation, as well as fulfillment. So let's say you are a coach or consultant, which tend to be the type of people that I work with the most. If you are, let's say, you're a coach, you might want to offer some private consultation calls or private calls. Well, you can conduct those and fulfill on your deliverables through video. And then the other place is through product development. So if you have a course, having video as part of that course can really help to not only communicate your message, but really help them get the results that you're intending for them.
Yeah, so you really spoke about a range of different types of videos, from marketing all the way to product and also customer service in some ways. And a lot of these resonate with me because, I've been in that business of learning and development, coaching, consulting, have had my own courses where I needed it. And so that's kind of an area that is really close to my heart. And I would like to go deeper into that. Would that be okay with you?
Of course.
So when we're thinking about the learning and development area, regardless if it's a corporation or if it is maybe a coach or a consultant, the type of people that you work with and I also work with, how do you see video play into how they can develop programming?
Well, I think that they're really, and this is true of video on the whole, but you have your live video and then you have your recorded video. And ideally, you get to a point where you're utilizing both formats because there's a time and a place for each of those,
So tell me more about live video. What do you mean by live video?
So live video, meaning that it's happening in real time. It's happening in that moment. It could be that there's a slight delay depending on bandwidth and things like that. But generally it's happening at that same moment in time. So it's a shared experience that you're having with someone, if you are, and there's an energy around that. There's a specific kind of interesting energy that happens when you're doing a live training, in that both recipients, whether it's a group of people or even a private call, you're sharing that same moment in time. And I love that energy. I think that's wonderful. So it's real-time broadcasting and real-time communication. It's like the telephone, only video.
Yeah. So I think and that might be something for us to be really clear what we're talking about. Even if you do a Zoom session, you're ultimately coming across in a video on the screen. It doesn't feel like it to me anymore because I feel like I live in Zoom town, but I have a lot of Zoom sessions. We have a Zoom session. Another one could be doing a Facebook Live or to do a LinkedIn Live event where that's part of a training program or an interaction with your clients, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that live environment is just, I think, like I said, there's an energy, it's a shared experience, whether you are doing that, like you said, on a Zoom meeting, and maybe it's a private Zoom meeting where it's just the two of us, or you're taking that to the next level and you're broadcasting that Zoom meeting out to social media, or possibly maybe you decide we're going to use a multi-streaming tool. I'm a big fan of Restream and I love it and use it a lot. You can go live on multiple platforms at the same time using that tool. So there are different ways, but that piece around live streaming can be really impactful.
And particularly in a training environment. Where you have your clients who are part of that program and only they have access to it. So it really becomes it's not as much a commodity anymore. You're really kind of providing your personal time to your participants, and they can probably engage with you and interact with you. And that really is a value add.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then they can ask questions in real time and so have their questions answered in real time. Now, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, there was a little delay. Here's the tech thing when you work with video.
Right.
That little delay. So we've got the live video, and then we have pre-recorded, of course, being on the other side of that. So tell me a little bit more of the super big variety of types of videos that somebody could be considering here.
There are a lot. There are a lot. The thing with video, with recorded video, that we have to keep in mind, especially from a business perspective, is that it requires post-production. It requires there be some level of production after it's been recorded, post-recording, right? So it's not, I could go in and take my phone or take a webcam and I could record the piece, but then what do you do with it? Like there has to be that next step. Otherwise it's not becoming anything. So but the problem that people face often in that post-production piece is, well, who's going to do it? Who has the skill set to do that? Sometimes there could be businesses who do have those people and have those skills on hand. Well, that's great, but it takes time. And so the recorded piece, I like to say that ideally we get to a point where you have both types of videos and they can be both used strategically in different ways. But the piece with recorded is that, yes, it does require more work. The thing I love about live streaming is that it's the fastest way for us to get content online because you're getting around that piece of post-production. So, these are just the things that you have to kind of keep in mind. Sometimes we'll have people say, well, we want to outsource that. We want to do certain parts, or maybe it's a hybrid and we want to outsource certain parts of it. Great. So now we have to talk about a budget. There needs to be a budget for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you're speaking to, I see that a lot with my clients when they're thinking about, okay, we want to create a training program. And then you have to make that decision about what is it that you deliver live versus what is it that you might want to deliver in a pre-recorded way. And then how do you get there? What's the process, the path to get there? How do you make the decision? What goes where? And then what's the process for you to actually create those content materials and those pieces? And it's always a big debate and a big question. And yeah, as you said, that post-production struggle that a lot of people have. And it's something where, yes, you can outsource and you need to have a consistent quality. It's a brand representation, isn't it?
There are so many things to consider when you're outsourcing video, because you have to understand, well, what kind of video is this going to be? And is it aligned to my brand? So sometimes I'll see, let's say, Petra, for example, someone has a high level coaching program, it's a high ticket program. And yet then they go to outsource the video and they'll go to Fiverr. Nothing against Fiverr, but there's a misalignment there between the quality of video you're going to get there to the high ticket program you just sold. Yes. So that's where we have to be really careful. I'm not a fan of videos that don't have a on-camera representative or someone who, at least for portions of the video, are communicating on camera, because people want to connect with people. So I'm not someone who is really a big fan of the Doodle art and the Doodle videos and those type of explainers. I would prefer to see live action videos. So people who are actually speaking on camera. And so you have to be careful when you're outsourcing and making sure that the level of quality matches the level of program that you've put together.
Yeah, I mean, you were speaking about Doodle, and Doodle is the kind of the on whiteboard kind of hand designs things. We've seen it before. It has its place, but you can't build an online course or a learning program simply out of Doodle videos, and they do lose their appeal as well when they come in big buckets. So I think each style has probably some.
Sorry, I was going to say, you can use them sparingly, portions in certain types of productions.
Yes.
But what I meant was that you shouldn't outsource your entire recorded video strategy and the content all to that style. You can use it sparingly within a larger production. Maybe there is a point where you need to explain something and there needs to be some type of show and tell of this goes to here and then this goes into this box. Okay, great. That would be a place where we might have 15 seconds of Doodle art to describe that thing, but it does comprise the entire video. Yeah.
And I think I'm totally aligned with what you're saying here. Is the different styles that can translate different concepts in different ways, and to make decisions about what are we translating, how are we using it. I think that's the real bigger question about the overall course strategy and learning strategy. So how can a learning professional, so let's think about the corporate environment, how would they make best use of video for their content creation? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's really about what is the intent? What is it that you're teaching, and it has more to do with strategy. Maybe it could be something like, well, we want to be able to have a whiteboard. So I'm going to teach on the whiteboard, and we're going to capture the entire that in its entirety. So it's really looking at, well, what is it that we're teaching? What is the best way in which the professional wants to teach it? And then looking at the video part of that and saying, okay, well, why don't we capture that? For the most part, what we're doing is we're doing talking head videos, for lack of a better term, right? Where we might take someone who's expressing an idea on camera and then capture that and build around it. But those are the considerations. Sometimes you could have, let's say I have my iPad over here, you might like to draw on an iPad. Well, there are ways in which you could create videos where you're showing the iPad on the screen at the same time. So I think it's just looking at different situations and saying, okay, what is the best way for us to communicate what we're trying to communicate? What is the message we're trying to share? And how might be the best way for us to technically put that together?
Yeah, and I think what you just alluded to, and you said the B word before, the budget word. I think it very much depends on how repeatable is this content, what's the volume that you're creating for, and so what kind of budgets can you assign for it? If it's a video that will be watched by 5 people, it's a different story than a video that's watched by 50,000 people. And you can put different budgets behind it and then get the appropriate resources.
Yeah. And sometimes what happens too, from a budgetary perspective, is you need to look at it and say, okay, for example, there are traditional video production companies out there, and they do an amazing job. They have videographers. They're going to scout locations. Now we have hair and makeup. You've got to come to a studio, or they come to you. And it's great. The video is going to look fantastic. But there's also a cost with that. Now, generally speaking, it's about $1,000 per finished minute of video. So if you are doing a 12-week course, you can imagine now that it starts to become cost prohibitive, for the most part, to have them produce those type of videos. So you have to kind of think about, well, there's going to be a cost, but is there a way that, so for example, we do virtual video production. We're not a traditional video production company for that reason, because for a course, we don't need to have hair and makeup or go on location or have a videographer. We can capture what we need to capture on Zoom. So there are some efficiencies that we can find there. And I think that's where you have to be careful. There is a time and a place when you'll need a video production company, but we're not that. And we're really, I believe, filling that gap in the place between that and having nothing.
And what I really like about what you've just said, because it's a faster way to get there. It's more adaptable, because we know when we spend a lot of money on something, we're not going to scrap it very easily. We're going to keep it going longer than perhaps we should. And so this type of video production makes it possible for smaller companies or budget poor companies to provide still that video content that can become part of either your marketing campaign or your learning and development programs or your sellable, marketable programs. So now that we have an idea, we have all these different options, and there's different productions, there's all these pros and cons that the business owner has to weigh. And you've mentioned that you help people to do this, even through a Zoom session. So tell me a bit more about how your service works and how you make it work for your client.
Well, it's all rooted in my experience as a broadcaster. After 25 years of interviewing people, sometimes in studios, sometimes on location, I'm taking those concepts and bringing them to this space. So what I do is I can interview someone for an hour, and I can create 12 videos from that 1 hour interview. And those 12 videos can be in our case, we turn it into the three different aspect ratios, three different sizes, and we brand them and caption them and headlines and colors and branding and logos and all of that, so that we can customize the experience for the viewer to be able to have that brand recognition. But also the videos are produced in such a way that the person who I'm interviewing is coming across in an authentic way. They're coming across in a natural and conversational way, which is really what's working today. So we're getting away, from those corporate videos, those stoic, hello, I'm buttoned up to here, right? And corporate, hello, I'm reading from a teleprompter, type of videos, getting away from that and getting more into a place where people are at ease and they're simply answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the premise of what we do.
Yeah. And I think it's typically easier to listen to follow, and to understand. I find that when we're really spending a lot of time on scripts, sometimes the scripts get so short, they have so much information, nobody understands it anymore because it's just so packed, because the fillers are missing that help us to digest the information. Anyway, script writing, totally different topic. Let's get back to video.
But it's interesting because the thing is that with business owners, they know their stuff. Mm-hmm. What's lacking is the ability to capture it.
Yeah.
So they do know it's there. It's already there. Our job is to bring it out of them and capture those nuggets of wisdom. Mm-hmm. And those are the pieces that position that person as an authority, as a leader, as a resource in their industry.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're just saying some really important words here: an authority, a leader in the industry. So that's really part of the brand development. So the personal brand, or if they have a corporate brand, their corporate brand development. Maybe say a few more words to that.
Well, it's all about authority. I mean, if you are positioned as an authority in your marketplace and you're seen as a go-to person, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. It becomes easier to generate leads. It becomes easier to get clients. It becomes easier to get attention of not only your ideal customers and clients, but more importantly, getting the attention of other people who have stages that might like to bring you on as an authority to get you in front of more people and leverage their audiences to you, right? So mm-hmm. That speaking piece is really, really key. So it's great. You make videos and you put them out there. That authority piece has to do with connecting with people on the other side of the lens, but it also has to do with attracting people who have podcasts, live stream shows. They're looking for guests. They want to put you on stages, virtual otherwise. And that is a great way. Not every industry wants to do that. Not every CEO is looking to become a keynote speaker, but there may be people within your organization who could go and do those speaking engagements, or, be able to expand and expand the reach and get that message out to more people by virtue of being positioned as the authority in that case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more with you. I think that once you are considered an authority, and video is a great way to portray that, because as you said at the beginning, you said something like, yes, we love to be in person, but video is the second best. So it gets us closer to our audience. It gets us closer to our market, and particularly the market that we don't even know yet. And they have the feeling that they know you, and they get to like you, trust you, and build a rapport even before you first time talk to them. And video is so powerful in that. So where can our listeners learn more about the services that you provide?
Well, I think the best way is through my website at SherylPlouffe.com. Sheryl is with an S. And if you go there, there is a contact us form. So if you are someone watching this and saying, hey, I'd love Sheryl to come and speak to our audience, there's a form there. You can ask. We can answer any question that you have about services that we provide. We do challenges. We do accelerator programs. I do a lot of speaking. It's one of my things to do production. So a whole host of ways that we can help people really gain that authority position in the marketplace.
Awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned your challenge, a great way to get your toes in the water is to follow Sheryl's challenge so that you get a video out and you start being seen as that authority that we talked about. Sheryl, thank you so much for being with me here today, sharing your wisdom, your insights, and your tips and tricks about what to consider with regards to video, because I think it's a super important topic. It's very relevant these days, and certainly an important topic in the learning and development space. Thanks for your time.